The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello, good evening. And welcome to another live episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 369. And not only is it episode 369 of Wrestling with Johners, we're also celebrating 6 years of Wrestling with Johners. And who would have thought at the very beginning, when I was fumbling my way through reviews of NXT UK, that would still be here 6 years later talking to the very, very finest performers, professional wrestlers on the UK scene. But I've got an awesome guest on the right-hand side of my screen there, and a returning guest like my previous four. And we'll speak to my returning guest very, very soon. But just a quick reminder, we came back officially from our hiatus at the end of September. We spoke to the Legion King, Chris Aries. And then LA Taylor came on the very next week, the Demolition Woman. Go and check that one out, episode 366. A couple of weeks ago, we had memes. Or was it Blue Pain? But kind of two for the price of one, you could say. Episode 367, and then just a few weeks ago, the Wonderland Warrior, Aluna, joined me on the show. But today, it's all about this guy here, the absolute Maverick, Tommy Kyle. And there he is. 2 years and 5 months since you were last on the show, Tommy. But thank you so much for coming back onto the show. What a 2 years and 5 months it's been. But first of all, how are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me back. Thank you. I was jamming along to your little intro there. It's a new intro, I think you have.
Yeah,
I love
cool.
it.
It's funny, it's beginning of the year, a little bit of a Jimi Hendrix vibe there, but I absolutely love it. But great to have you back on the show. And of course, we've seen each other on occasions, mostly at United Wrestling, and we will be talking about United Wrestling, Riot Cabaret, UBW, Ignite Wrestling Pro, New Wave, and so much more. But before we speak to Tommy Kyle, just a quick announcement, and this is hot off the press. My next guests will be none other than these two here. Act 2 will be coming back onto the show. Another set of returning guests, not until the end of the month, the 29th of November at 8 p.m. But Act 2 will be coming back onto the show. One of the most popular guests that we've had on the show over recent years, and they'll be rejoining us. What a couple of years they've had on the scene. But Act 2 will be coming back, in a few weeks' time at the end of the month. So not next week, because the next few weeks I'll be doing preview shows for TNT, Progress, and one or two others. But my next interview will be with Act 2 at 29th of November. But Tommy Kyle, fantastic to have you back on the show. And I know you're a fan of Act 2 as well. Who isn't a fan of Act 2? Absolutely fantastic. They've been taking the UK scene by storm. But it's been over a couple of years since you were last on the show, and what a couple of years. We'll talk about the injury and all of that. But if you could sum up the last couple of years, kind of what sort of journey it's been for you these last couple of years. You was on a roll when we were speaking to you back in June 2022, and you seem to be on a roll again, Tommy, if you don't mind me saying. But sum up the last couple of years for us. It's been a bit of a roller coaster for you.
I think, so 2022 was the last time we spoke on the pod, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, I got injured for most of 2023, so that was sitting that out. But the 2024 has been fun. It's been a bit I guess, momentum-wise, ups and downs, I think. And I think that's a mix of things of real life, and then some promotions that I would work more regularly have unfortunately gone under or gone on hiatus. But then there's been new places that I've gone to and debuted for, which has been really cool. And so it's been really up and down in momentum, but I'm having a lot of fun. The fun is still there, and the joy of it, which is always good.
Absolutely
interesting.
We're going to talk about all of that. Let's bring up some pictures. And first of all, there you are with the Ignite Wrestling Pro Championship. And there you are as the absolute Maverick, looking cool in your kind of newish jacket. I do like the furry accessory there, and a few more pictures. But let's talk about growth, because I think when we last spoke on the pod, June 2022. I think you're already one of the more exciting up-and-coming wrestlers on the scene. You've probably already been on the scene a good 4 or 5 years at that point. But the last couple of years, 2023 was a bit of a downer for you because you was out for 7 months. And we'll talk about the injury. But since coming back, and I think now you're probably one of the most smoothest workers on the scene in the UK. You've got all that extra experience behind you, branching out across the country, winning championships as well. We mentioned Ignite Wrestling Pro. But what would you say were some of your biggest areas of growth, Tommy, in the last couple of years, and certainly heading into 2024? And now we're at the back end of 2024. But growth-wise, where do you think you've come on the most?
I think because of the injury, when you have to when you get injured for that long and you come back, and it's kind of like you come back and you're physically better, but mentally you're still a bit like, I don't want to go through that again. For me, it was, I guess, kind of not relearning how to wrestle, but I slowed everything a lot down. I went to real basic stuff, and it took me a lot longer mentally, I think, to kind of get confidence in myself wrestling again, and to kind of try things and to put forward ideas and to be creative and to think outside the box a little bit. I think to be safe and to give myself a bit like a peace of mind, I was really set on not doing a lot, I think, when I came back, like in ring technically. And I thought, I did think like I was okay, like, because I didn't bring myself back too early or anything. I did fully in my head be like, no, I'm good to go back. But I think back to the sort of end of 2023 and the start of this year, and there's definitely been some matches where I've gone in and been like, I could have done more. And I think it's just something a little bit at the back of your mind where you're like, you haven't done that since you've been injured, or are you sure that's a good idea? And I think getting back to the point where we're at now, where I don't think about that anymore, and I've taken elements of that slowing down, and I love a lot of that style. I still bring it to now, but it's now combining some of the old stuff I used to do, and it's kind of meshed into this nice little comfort state of I'm very comfortable with what I do. I know exactly what I do. I like to think creatively with that stuff that I do now, whereas before I didn't really, because I was a bit, I guess, in my own head about it. Yeah. So I would say that is probably the most growth from that, I would say.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the version of Tommy Cole that we have in 2024. And like I say, you've always been a very unique, very innovative wrestler, very smooth, and very exciting to watch with lots of unique moves. Your offense is always very innovative. But would you say that we're looking at the best version of Tommy Cole that we've ever seen? Maybe. I don't know. That's subjective. You seem a bit uncertain by that. You seem
it's subjective. I don't think it is. But that's also because I don't wrestle at all like I did pre-injury. In my opinion, like if I look back at my stuff that I did pre-injury, there's stuff that I do that I think is maybe a little bit more like athletic and showy that I'm like, oh, that's really cool. But I think technically, and a lot of the details that I do now is a lot better. So it's subjective. It's like if you're talking about like flash and stuff like that, back then was better. But if you're talking more aspect to detail, I think now is better. And I guess it's just trying to find where all of that is coming in, and that's the goal, to kind of bring it all together, I guess. But yeah, it's subjective. It's hard to say, and I don't like tooting my own horn to be like it's the best you're gonna get, because next year might be the best version you're gonna get of me, and the year after that, you never know.
Good point. I'm going to bring up some more pictures because I think all round we are looking at a pretty polished version of Tommy Carl. The physique is there, the look is there, the in-ring work is there. I think the confidence behind the microphone is definitely there as well. And maybe that's an aspect of your character work which you've certainly utilized and are growing with but every single year. I've certainly noticed a more confident Tommy Carl behind the microphone for sure, and your character work, certainly with what I've seen at United, has been fantastic this year. But I want to talk a bit about the injury now, and we have kind of touched on it. It happened, I believe, in this match here in about I think January, February 2023, and this was the break You could probably explain it a bit better than I. And there you are, either just as it happened or just after the operation. I don't know, but give us a bit of context, Tommy. Tell us a little bit about how the injury happened, what sort of injury it was.
So it was, it was at Riot at the start of the year, which is never when you want an injury to happen at the start of the year. But yeah, it was off just a house show dive where you jump from the inside of the ring to the outside and land on the person, which I've done so many times. And that's always the way with injuries, isn't it? It's always of either something really really silly, and I mean that in like it's a simple silly thing, or it's something that you've done 1,000 times and then for some reason luck's not on your side. But yeah, I did the move and then I felt like a crack and a pop, and like I knew obviously something was wrong, but I didn't know what the severity was. So I went to try and get up to tell the ref, something's happened. And then I realized I couldn't put any like weight down on my leg because it was flopped on the floor in a weird angle. I was like, okay, well that's broken. And yeah. And it was a complete break of the tib and the fib, tibula and fibula, which then, as I was being escorted out, unfortunately pierced the skin. So then it required instant surgery, which I was very lucky to get. I think maybe the day after. I was very quick to get surgery, which was probably a difference maker. I think because the speed of the surgery and the success of the surgery is probably why I was able to recover in a decent amount of time, because I think they gave me about, I think it was like a year recovery, maybe just under a year recovery. And to be able to do it in 7 months, I think was down to the execution and the speediness of the surgery.
Fantastic. Would I be right in thinking that it was a certain Brendan White that had to whisk you off to hospital very rapidly that evening?
No. Brendan and Bart O'Connor, bless them, both carried me out of the venue. And Tate Mayfairs, who was the one I jumped on, bless him, took me to the hospital and took that photo of me in the bed, that picture of me with the thumbs up was I think maybe an hour and some strong gas and air after the incident. I don't remember it being taken, so yeah.
No, Brendan was obviously too busy fanboying over Mr. Blobby at that Riot Cabaret show to take you to hospital himself. But
I feel so bad for him, man. Bless him. Bless him having to carry my waggly leg out, and Bart O'Connor as well. But I'm really grateful for them both. Bless them. They really looked after me.
So when you describe it that way, I kind of have flashbacks to when Sid broke his leg in 2000 when he jumped off the middle turnbuckle. I don't know if it was as bad as that, but that's pretty gross.
I think it was the same break. It was the same break. Yeah, I'm not sure. He definitely did. Something to look up. He definitely did one, either the tib or the fib. And if it, by the looks of it, just in the famous footage,
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if it was tib and fib and a clean break going through. But obviously, when he did it, medicine and surgery wasn't as efficient as it is now. So I think it was much more debilitating to him than, luckily, touch wood, it was to me.
Well, he was never the same, and you were back in 7 months, which was absolutely phenomenal.
And the wonders of modern medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about that, because you was on a wave of momentum. I think this was your second show for Riot Cabaret. A group at the time who were fairly young but making some waves, getting some headlines, and you were being featured. In some fairly high-profile matches, some good matches, awesome opponents, and the Clapham Grand. What a venue, and it always brings a fantastic crowd. But being out for 7 months when you had this wave of momentum, you were doing great things, not just in Riot Cabaret, but across the UK, various promotions. You were branching out and doing some wonderful things. But, having this momentum suddenly stopped with such a horrific injury, Tommy, what does that do to your psyche? What does that do to your mental health when you know that you're on such a tear? And all of a sudden, it happens, you can't wrestle, you're out, you don't know how soon it's going to be before you return. What does that do to your mental health and to your psyche when you're out like that with such a terrible injury?
I think it's obviously really tough, and you do feel like really like, excluded. I think anyone with an injury, and there's been unfortunately a few this year with different people, and I know that they've felt similar. You do feel really removed from it, and you feel like, that you've that it will move on without you, right? And when you come back, no one will remember you or want to use you or anything like that, which isn't true at all for anyone that is, hurt. That doesn't happen. Wrestling will always be there, and if you're, a good person and you've put the work in and everything, then people don't forget that. But anyway, like, it definitely has that effect on you. But on the flip side, it kind of makes you, I guess, like, motivated to get back to it. Like, I didn't have necessarily a set time. They said like it could be like 10 months to a year. So I was like, okay, great. Well, I'm going to try and aim for the 10 months. And, I'm not going to rush the recovery. I will only go back when I go back. I said that literally the moment of the break. I will only go back when I'm fully healed, because I want it to be fine. And you just kind of kept going and going and going. And luckily I had a really good recovery. But that's all you can really do, to be fair. Like, you can't focus on, in my opinion, you can't focus on what you're missing out on, because there's nothing you can do about it. You are going to miss out on it. And it's out of your control. And I always don't like to try and control things you can't control, because it's unnecessary stress. It's things like, I think also when you're in the very first, I don't know, few weeks of an injury, where stuff at like your home life suffers. Like, for me, it was like making food, and it sounds really strange, but because I couldn't stand up without crutches, like, I had to have like food constantly made for me by like either my partner or a friend or my mum or someone like that coming around to make food, because I physically couldn't stand up and balance to open the fridge and like cook a meal and things like that. And that makes you feel like really useless, because you're there like, oh, I can't do anything. Like, I can't go and answer the door. Like, literally, I just have to keep the leg up until I get some kind of bearing in it. That is rough. That takes a mental toll. And so, to be fair, I think the first part of it for me was getting past that area, and just being able to function as a human. When I could get back to driving and when I could go back to the gym, that was like a godsend, because then you feel like you're going into the process of rehabbing, and you feel like you can do the work to get back to where you are. But those first 2 to 3 weeks where you're helpless is the worst. Absolutely the worst.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it is quite poetic that you suffered the injury at Riot Cabaret, and then your first match back, your return, was also with Riot Cabaret. So, I mean, a fantastic way to kind of make that full circle moment. But where was your head at before you stepped through that curtain on that return match? And I think the return match, was it against Spike in about the August of last year?
Yeah.
And I'm going to bring up a random picture. I don't know what show this was from, but I believe this is the Clapham Grand.
That's
a fantastic venue, a great crowd. And one thing that's always impressed me about Riot Cabaret is they attract the wrestling fan and the non-wrestling fan, and they make new wrestling fans all the time, and always put on a fantastic variety wrestling show. To cater to the indie fans, to the wrestling fans, and the non-fans, and those that are just there for a good time. But what was it like, kind of making your return? Where was your head at, especially knowing that you're about to step through the ropes of a ring for the first time? And were you, quite nervous or cautious?
I was actually, for the match itself, I was okay, because I had been like, again, I said I wasn't going to go back until I could fully kind of, in my head, think I could do everything that I could before in a ring. So I'd been training to go up to that point and making sure that everything was okay, and making sure the leg could take everything and be fine. And I didn't feel like second guessing or anything with anything in ring. And that's when we were talking about earlier, like, I had simplified a lot of my stuff and things, and I knew I could do that fine, and it was no problem. So that bit wasn't too much of an issue. It was just, I think, kind of being like, I think, will I get a reaction? Because bless Riot, they really did it. My return, like, they put a lot of effort into selling my return, more than they needed to. It was very nice what they did. They made a big deal out of it, a nice graphic. They did the whole flipping promo with the Creed My Sacrifice gimmick, which of course you're gonna do, but yeah, and I was kind of like, well, this is really nice, but I hope that I get a decent reaction. Not for me, just because they had put some effort into it. And I don't want them to be like, oh, actually, you know, the people don't really know or care too much about this guy. It's just a polite, oh, that's nice. But that was my main fear. I think the actual wrestling side was fine. I've wrestled. Actually, that might have been the first time I wrestled Spike. I was about to say I've wrestled Spike before, but that probably was actually the first time. Yeah, no, the wrestling side of it was fine. It was just the reaction.
Good. And I'm going to bring up this picture here because I think this must have been from Riot Cabaret. So we mentioned Mr. Blobby earlier, and there he is. Photo bombing your picture there. But let's move from Riot Cabaret and Ignite Wrestling Pro, and here you are as the Ignite champion, of course, and you know, the quite recently crowned Ignite Wrestling Pro champion, and I think it happened back in July when you defeated the now Chris Aries, who came on the show at the end of September. But you've been part of Ignite since its very first show, since 2021, and with the exception of the injury which kept you out for those 7 months, I think you've been a part of just about every single show that they've ran, besides the ones when you're out injured, of course. But tell us a little bit about Ignite Wrestling Pro down in Boreham Wood, and because you've got a bit of a history with that company. Tell us what Ignite Wrestling Pro means to you and why it's so special to you, Tommy.
So Ignite is, for those who don't know, is kind of like the next chapter of what was Pro Wrestling Clash before the pandemic, which was a promotion run by Chris Gladden, formerly known as CJ Carter, and Gene Money. They ran Pro Wrestling Clash, and then obviously the pandemic happened, and Clash, as like every other promotion, stopped. And then as it came back as Ignite Pro Wrestling. And yeah, it's Boreham Wood's kind of local to me. It's about maybe half an hour, 40 minutes away from where I live. So I would say it's, you know, in the wrestling scheme of things, it's very local. All the talent there is kind of from around the sort of southeast of London area. When it definitely started, it was around that southeast of London area. But as time's moved on, they're now bringing people from all walks of the UK in. And I think if they've established stars there that I would say aren't stars kind of like generally in your normal places of the UK, which makes it different. Like the Ignite fan base have latched on to newer stars that like people like, but aren't like, I guess, the top guys of the other promotions. But at Ignite, they're like Hail Marys, which is great. Like you've got like Taylor James is like one of their biggest bad guys. Aloon is one of the biggest baby faces. Smashing Mike, one of the biggest baby faces. And you've got Chris Aries as well, like only recently turned up at Ignite, but has probably become one of the biggest heels there as well. But they also have brought in huge names and like real talents like Connor Mills, Michael Oku, Eddie Dennis, people like that to wrestle not the hometown, but like the homegrown talent there.
Yeah.
So everyone's getting like these matches that aren't put on in other promotions as much. Styles make fights, right? So it's an interesting concoction of wrestlers, and the crowd are really good. The venue's stunning. The storylines are great. And yeah, they pretty much sell out every show. So they're doing something right.
Yeah, like I say, I love the mix of the homegrown talent, the Ignite talent, and the more kind of UK-based, more nationwide talent that are coming in, and these fresh, exciting matchups for the fans of Ignite Wrestling Pro. But I'm going to bring up some pictures, and there you are again with the championship. And I think you've had matches against Corey McRae, Aluna, Mark True, and various others, Gene Money, Chris Aries, and more recently a championship defense. Sorry about that one there, Tom, with Chris kicking you in the head there.
That in there. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And your first defense against Connor Mills which was an incredible match, and possibly a first-time one-on-one encounter for yourself. Some great action here. And Connor Mills, I mean, arguably one of the very best talents in the UK, alongside yourself, of course. And you can see the intensity of the match as the match progresses there. But you did overcome, you did retain. You are still the Ignite Wrestling Pro champion. Let me ask you, especially with your longevity with the company, especially you've been there since day one, 2021, all the way through till now, and now you are finally their champion with all the history you have with that company. What does it mean to you to be their champion right now, Tommy?
Oh, it's a huge honor. It didn't start out that way. I must admit, I went into Ignite with a bit of a chip on my shoulder, and therefore I lost, I think, my first 6 or 7 matches, I think, under there, just straight losses. But I feel like the crowd naturally got behind me, which was nice. And then, it was quite an authentic growth from there. And yeah, when I won the title in July, or whenever it was, that was a very cool moment.
It was July, yeah.
It's very cool to represent that promotion because of what I think it stands for as well. And from what the talent that I think is in that locker room is, I think, incredible. I think I would put it up against pretty much any promotion in the country favorably. And for them to say they want me to kind of, I guess, sail the ship is a real big responsibility, but a huge honor as well. And having the belt has allowed me so far, even though it's only one defense against Mills, it's been able for me to have that match with Mills, which meant a lot to me because it was one of that match that kind of said, hey, you can hang. Right, like Mills is like a test. I feel Mills is a test.
Bit of a stamp of approval that you
I
can
think
hang
so.
with.
I really enjoyed that match. I think Mills is. I think he's had an incredible year as well, just an incredible year, and like he's arguably the one of, if not the best we have in the UK, and. Yeah, to be able to go in there and hang with him in the main for the title, just a very cool opportunity that I don't think I would have had if I wasn't the champion. So, yeah, stuff like that is a huge honor, and I'm very grateful.
Absolutely. And I neglected to mention earlier, of course, we are live. So if you are watching us live on Facebook or YouTube, then thank you so much for tuning in. It's a very special episode 369 with the absolute Maverick, Tommy Kyle. And of course, we're celebrating 6 years of Wrestling with Johners. So I'll get the party poppers and the champagne out later on. But if you are watching and you want to get in touch with the show, then you can do. Send in your questions, send in your comments. We want all of your questions before the end of this interview with Tommy Kyle. And one person that's already reached out already, a certain Chris Aries. Thank you so much for using that picture. Please bring it back up as many times. Which picture was it? I think it was this one here. Oh yeah. I think I used that a few times during Chris's interview as well.
Me getting kicked a lot in these photos, Johners. I don't know what you're trying to say.
I'm just choosing the best photos available. They're all from your Instagram anyway. So thank you, Chris, and keep sending in your questions. And speaking of photos, it was one photo, which was that one there. Hold on a minute. Let's just that one there. That's even better. Tommy Kyle, what is going on there?
Jonas, you're better be putting me over on this podcast, mate. You're burying me here. You've gone out maliciously out of your way to find that photo.
Not at all. Just having some fun.
Mills hit me so hard that apparently that's not even me. That's another person. Oh, Lord.
Let's get rid of that before I ruin it all. But your next title defense, Tommy, is going to be here. We mentioned Spike earlier in your match against Spike for Riot Cabaret. You've actually got a one-on-one singles match against Spike Trivet, somebody that you're starting to work and learn about more frequently, certainly in 2024. But for the Ignite Championship, and that's going to be November the 24th, Curtain Call 3. Yes. I'd say that would probably be your third one-on-one encounter with Spike. So I know that the two of you are becoming quite familiar dance partners, but you must be looking forward to that one. And this time you'll be facing him with your championship on the line.
Yeah, I think that's going to be my fourth one with Spike. We've had one at Riot, one at Apex, one at UBW, and this will be the fourth. And I think he has a 2-1 lead on me at the moment. So hopefully, it's for the belt, so I'm gonna try harder. We'll even up at 2-2. But Spike is obviously a complex individual. He's definitely one of the best in the country, but he's also just a ruthless so-and-so. He's vicious, he's cunning, just a horrible, horrible person, really. And I think, I'll have to pull out some tricks to keep the title. But I think I'm a very different wrestler to the last time we wrestled. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. And also size-wise, just physically as well. We've both got undergone some physical transformations. He's obviously shredded and ripped out, but now he's tiny. And I've put on some size. So I'm looking forward to throwing him around and ragdolling him, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of Spike, whether it be for Progress, for United or wherever really, and I think he's wrestling. He's in the form of his life. I think 2024 might see some of the best matches of Spike Gervais. And I think you two, that match, November the 24th, curtain call free for Ignite Wrestling Pro with the championship on the line. I think that's going to be an absolute show stealer. It's going to be worthy of the main event, worthy of a championship match for sure. But we've got United Wrestling watching us live at home. What are you drinking? What are you drinking? I don't know whether they're referring to that picture, that photo. What are you drinking in that?
That's one of the. That's me after one of the. That photo is me after one of the Tap Socials signature brews. That's me after one of them. No, I'm drinking a Thatcher's Gold cider. I'm a cider man. Me, I love a cider. Country
You've had
boy.
a hard day at work, and now you're sitting relaxing, talking to me.
You
thoroughly deserve a Thatcher's for sure.
My favorite.
Absolutely. And thank you, United, for reaching out. And please continue sending your questions, your comments. But let's talk about this. And not only your debut over in Poland, but your international debut. Let me get this right. It was for a Combat Pro from February this year. So I was surprised to learn that it was actually your first foray outside of the UK. And I know that Poland have got a growing indie scene, a growing wrestling scene, as I learned when I interviewed Scotty Rourke earlier this year. But tell us about that. How did you get the invite to go over to Poland? Because, like I say, they do attract a lot of international talent, and they are building quite an impressive scene of their own and some good indie workers of their own as well. But tell us about your involvement and how you got over there.
So they reached out to me, and I think the promoter generally just really likes Top Gun. He's just a big Top Gun fan, and I think. Just he happened to stumble across me and was like, that would be cool to bring over. And I think it helped that I was quite near I live quite near an airport, so being able to get there was a relatively cheaper option maybe compared to some other people. So that also helped. But I remember when I went to the promoter's house, before the show, to get some stuff. He had a room full of Top Gun memorabilia. And I was like, you're not even lying. You're just a huge Top Gun fan. Okay, but I get it now. But it was cool. It's the first time I've been to Poland, full stop as well. So it's wicked that wrestling takes you to a country that you haven't been. And when you experience that in a new country, you're like, this is really cool. That I wouldn't have probably gone here if it wasn't for wrestling. And now I'm here. And so it was in Gdynia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm messing it up. In Poland, which is very cool. KBW or Combat Pro. They run out of a nightclub there, but it's so cool. It's balcony around the ring, and then eventually when they finish the show, the nightclub then they have about an hour to pack down, and then the nightclub runs, and everyone just stays there for the night. Effectively, as the nightclub runs out there, and Polish people love to drink so much, too much for me. But it was very cool, and interesting. yeah, an interesting scene. Then you're right, is absolutely growing. And yeah, I know Scotty, and I know a couple of people have gone over there for other promotions. I think Roth and Roy Johnson went out to the same one I did not too long ago as well, and they said they had a good time. So yeah, no, it was an interesting experience.
Absolutely. And so was there anything that surprised you about the experience? Obviously, it was your first time out of the UK, your first time wrestling in Poland, your first time stepping foot on Polish soil and wrestling in that very unique venue. And obviously, you wrestled this gentleman here, Zephyr. But tell us a bit about the match and the experience as a whole, and how were you received by the Polish fans?
The thing that I wasn't expecting was how good the fans were. The fans were so loud for everything. The match that we had was I think we went. Did we open? Yeah, I think we opened, and it was like in the most respectful way. It was nothing special. It was an opening match. But they were so loud for Zephyr and for me, considering they had no idea who I was, and that we did like a meet and greet thing after, which in a nightclub is very difficult to do because there's so many bodies. It's not like a one of the camp shows where like you've got like, you know, the ring of kids and they come around the ring after the show. It's just full of bodies trying to do a meet and greet. It's like the Progress meet and greets, but without the lines. It's just that just on top of you.
It's not always that organized for Progress either, to be honest.
No, maybe I'm giving too much credit. But yeah, no, it was the fans over there are really good. And I think considering how, I don't know if it's new, I'd like to say well, like you said, it's evolving for sure. It's definitely growing, and maybe that this kind of wrestling is more recent over there. But they were really into it, like really into it. Yeah, just a really good fan base, and I don't even know if it's just for wrestling. I just think they're there for a good time. But they're really loud. They were really loud the whole night. So yeah, Polish fans, 100%.
Absolutely. Is it giving you the bug for wanting to get out and travel? And what other countries would you like to perform in, Tommy?
I mean, it's with traveling to wrestling, like Europe is obviously something that would be cool, but yeah. I set just anywhere in Europe, and that would have done me. Just to say I've done it. Be like, yeah, and Poland counts. So the main one, obviously, Japan. I think everyone wants to do in Japan. That would be cool. The difficulty with somewhere like Japan is that it wouldn't, unless it was for like I guess a bigger company that you could just go, you know, if I got good enough and they flew you out and then flew you back immediately. With my current job, I just can't take that amount of time off. I just can't. With teaching, it's like, unless it falls in like a half term or an Easter or something like that, maybe that'd be great if it does. But if it doesn't fall that, I can't take that much time off, which is a shame. And then you're in the battle of like, hey, do I chase it or do I have the stability of a job? And it's tricky. So I'm just kind of hoping for that miracle thing with Japan, where there's something that comes up and I can take, I don't know, falls perfectly on a half term or something like that. But yeah, Japan would obviously be a really cool one, definitely.
Yeah. And I think your style would go over really, really well in Japan for sure. That hybrid style, that mixed style. But I want to talk about from one debut over in Poland to another debut in South Wales, and this one here for New Wave, and quite a recent debut as well, the 18th of October. And there you are as part of this 7-man Scrabble match, and your debut for New Wave. And like I say, I've had a whole ton of guests on here that train with New Wave, that wrestled for New Wave. And like I say, it's one of them promotions. Like I say, primarily it's based off of the training academy that they run there down there in Newport. But they put on some banger of shows from the. Let me just get this right. The St Andrew's URC Church. In is it Cardiff, Newport? Can't remember exactly. Cardiff. But I mean, look at that talent involved there. But getting the opportunity to wrestle for New Wave, considering what fantastic talent they have down there, what fantastic talent they train down there and have on their shows, and then they invite in to be part of their shows, like yourself, for example, and Connor Mills, who's also part of that 7-man Scramble. I'd say a pretty cool debut to have in 2024.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was wicked. I wanted to go to like just Wales or up the country a little bit more this year. and just to be able to debut in New Wave, because it's very obvious and clear that Midlands as well. This goes for Midlands as well, that they've kind of got like a lock on like bringing the next generation of talent. I think in the UK, it's very clear that they are kind of leading that. So to be able to get in there and like network and wrestle and watch some of these new talents as well, it keeps me being like, I have to keep up in my game, because they're so young now and they're so innovative and good, and the training they're so good that it makes you go, okay, cool, I want to go there, I want to get trained by the people that are there who are really good, and I want to learn alongside top names like Jay Joshua and like Nico and people like that. But also like hopefully get to wrestle some of these really cool new up and comers, like obviously Leon Cage, like massively doing stuff, but then other names, Shane Hooker, incredible, Tommy Vril, incredible, and then on the New Wave Midland side, you've got Luca Romeo, who's excellent, Leon De Silva, excellent, incredible, both talents. And yeah, I think just if you're not trying to get some form of training from New Wave, or just trying to network with those shows, you should be doing it. I won't say you're doing a disservice to yourself, but they are very clearly putting forward a force of new, exciting wrestlers, like new and currently existing, been a while. And to be able to work with them is a great learning opportunity and a great growing opportunity.
Absolutely. And we had a question that came in before we went live from a friend of the show, Richie. And Richie asks, how was your South Wales experience at New Wave, and any plans to return? I know that Richie is a fan of yours and he'd love to see you back in a New Wave ring.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, so I'd love to go back. I have a Wales return, not necessarily for New Wave, but I am returning to Wales in the new year. That's to be announced. So I will be up that way. I'd definitely like to go back to New Wave. I'd also like to wrestle on one of the New Wave Midlands shows. That would be cool. I wrestled one of their trainers, Jack Knudsen, not long ago, and I get one of my most fun matches of the year. I also wrestled in the same match, Luca and Leon De Silva, but that was a wet cake match, and we're not going to go too much into it. But yeah, very, very fun. And yeah, I would definitely like to go back up to New Wave again to wrestle and learn from some of the talents that I just previously mentioned.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And a few pictures from your experience at New Wave in the St Andrew's URC Church, and of course there you are, an extraordinary venue, a fantastic venue. Cool. And look at this. For a bunch of misfits, and but
one of my favorite photos of the year. Yeah, so the photographer, literally, such an album cover, that photo. Very, very cool. Very cool.
Absolutely. And like I say, just the setting, the venue just takes that picture to a whole new level. But let me ask you, United Wrestling now, and yes, that's the place where I've seen you the most. And you've got this very, very interesting storyline going with the Pillar Killers. You are the head, you are the leader of the Pillar Killers. And of course, you wrestled for United a few times last year. I think even in a championship match where you defended on behalf of Memes against Simon Quest when Simon Quest won the championship. I think it was in December of last year. I think Memes took the pinfall in the end, but you were definitely there while he was semi-injured. But tell us a bit about your experience with United Wrestling, because excuse my ignorance, I mostly know you as a babyface in most of the companies you've worked at, but this is very much a heel persona, very much a heel Tommy Kyle that we're seeing, front and center at United Wrestling. But tell us a bit about your experience so far with United Wrestling and this Pillar Killers gimmick and storyline that you are front and center with.
So the Pillar Killers is I guess a little bit of a brainchild of mine. I don't hate United at all. I think what they do is quite cool. I think I like the shows that they put on. I like that they do them out of these tap rooms. Very cool setting. They book some cool talent, which is really good. I just have this problem with them where they really push and champion a certain group of people that they call the Pillars. They always do this this pick six thing, this top six United, and it's usually the same pillars, right? They're really high on these few guys. They're just not very good. And they lose most of their matches, which is the most annoying thing, right? They lose, like, I don't know, the last couple shows, and they still get put on this top six because they're pillars. And it's just such elitist favoritism. And I just got a bit sick of it because I'm a really good wrestler and they're okay, but they're not on my level. And I thought, let's be real, there is still like six, I don't know, however many, 5, 6 of them. I'm not gonna be able to take them all on myself. So I enlisted a little bit of help from also very elite wrestlers from up and down the country. There's 2 of them right there. Exactly. Sapphire Reed, Jay Joshua, both from very different walks of life, both from different parts of the country, but both commonly excellent wrestlers and just very, 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 very talented people that I would put in my top 6. And yeah, ever since we've been there, we've just kind of run roughshod through them, and it's not even been close.
Very interesting. I know that United Wrestling are watching. I don't know whether they want to kind of retort to that, but you can kind of feel the heel presence coming through Tommy Carl there. But let's bring up some pictures. And certainly, you mentioned yourself as one of the Pillar Killers. You've had matches against Aluna. I think one of the matches of the year in a United ring in 2024, and it was a ferocious match between yourself and Aluna. She gave as good as she got, but you definitely had the upper hand in that one there, for example. Let's see what else we've got. It was yourself and Jay Joshua versus Josh Spicer and Aluna, I think, from an earlier show or more recent show, possibly. But you guys are certainly running roughshod over the United roster, and certainly the pillars of United. We've recently lost one, unfortunately, with Josh folding. But we've still got Aluna and Chris Aries, Artemis, Josh Spicer, and Arthur Scurro and a few others. Talking about your heel persona and this confidence, this presence that's coming through on the camera, in the ring, on the microphone, and you certainly seem to be more in your element as a heel, I would say, in a United ring, and enjoying being a heel as well, Tommy.
I think it's like, I don't know. I don't really consider it heelish. Like, I just, at United, it's, just be a bit more honest, because there's no one there that I'm really trying to impress. In wrestling, like, you always try and kiss ass to the people who can get you places. But, I did that with United originally. I wanted to work for them, and I proved that I was good. And so they booked me, and it's all fine. But once they book me, they know they're going to get good matches out of me. They know that they're going to, have their pillars get good matches out of me. And I don't know, just they're not going to exactly not book me for just being, I don't know, a little bit of a dick. I'm just being honest. I just think it's weird that they celebrate and they champion all these people that, I don't know, I've either destroyed. The only one that has beat me, and begrudgingly, I have to respect that he beat me, is Chris Aries. But let's put this out there. He only beat me because Artemis and Aluna decided to jump me. Otherwise, he wouldn't have beat me. I've destroyed Aluna. I've destroyed Josh Spicer. Simon Quest, I took to the limit. I know he's gone. Josh Folds literally couldn't stick at it at all. And they were championing him. He didn't even wrestle. And they were like, yeah, Josh Folds, the E4 guy or the Channel 4 guy, whatever. But he was a pillar, but it did absolutely like nothing. I just think it's bizarre. So it's not really a heel persona. It's just genuinely what I think of the company and what I think of the people in it. Just very honest. It's honest.
And so I want to talk about your most recent match there, and it was Monster Bash 3, just a couple of Sundays ago, and that trick-or-treat match against Chris Aries for his future-proof championship. And it was an all-out war. There was kendo sticks, there was tables, trash cans, there were, steel chairs, and there was this tremendous bump or crash from the balcony that Chris Aries took. Let's have a look at it. This was my vantage point from what happened towards the end of that match? I'm not even sure how he was able to recover after that, especially the crash landing. And I think his head made more contact with the table than the rest of his body did. But he did, and he did overcome. But he certainly looked like he took a bit of a beating. His back was pretty messy afterwards. But what are your kind of recollections of that match? And I neglected to mention that there was also a pumpkin involved, Tommy, which got placed over your head, which Chris took great delight in whacking off of your head. But that aside, it was a brutal war. It was a brutal war and main evented that show. But that bump will be remembered for a long time. Tell us about it.
I mean, I don't recall the pumpkin personally, but but yeah, I mean, the fact that he carried on to, even if he was assisted in the win, the fact that he kicked out after that bump is why I have to put some respect on his name. Some. Yeah, crazy. I don't know why you were just watching filming. I mean, I tried to kill a man, Jonathan, and you just filmed it. Like, didn't even try and help. But
I'm just a fanboy, you know.
That's your prerogative, man. Yeah, I guess that's your prerogative. But yeah, it was an interesting match. I won't say it was fun because it hurt, but it was fun to kick the piss out of him. It was fun to powerbomb him through multiple objects, to drop him on his head. Yeah, I just think I would have won if it wasn't for the other two. I just think I would have won. But it is what it is. There are other things to there are other people to conquer, other objectives to compromise and everything. So, but on that match, it was fun.
Yeah. And we're looking ahead. Now, I don't think you've had any match announced, but you are part of one of the graphics for United's next show at the Tap Social. Now, that is the 8th of December. You'll be sorry. Now, you are there kind of in the same graphic as Chris Aries. Could that be kind of alluding to something? But like I say, nothing's been announced yet, but do you kind of, especially after that loss, you're going to have a bit of a chip on your shoulder heading into that show and wanted to end the year on a bit of a high for yourself and for the Pillar Killers?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Don't get me wrong. I'm not unfair. Chris Aries, despite shenanigans, did beat me. He's got his title. I've lost. Other people now step up to take the title. I know how that works. That's fine. So for now, that story's closed. He's going to do what he is. But there are so many other pillars that are at United. There are some people that, like, I don't know, maybe aren't named pillars, but are definitely considered by the fan base pillars. And I don't know. There's so many pillars to like knock down. And the thing is as well, I haven't even fully revealed everyone who's in the Pillar Killers. Sure, there's Jay Joshua. Sure, there's Sapphire Reed. Maybe it's someone that's already in the hen house. Maybe it's one of the favorites. That would be fun, wouldn't it? What if it was a fan favorite that was secretly a Pillar Killer? Who knows? What if it's someone brand new?
Interesting. But go to United Wrestling socials. I'm sure there's going to be a link at the top of their page to click on and get tickets for the Tap Social Sunday, the 8th of December. You'll be sorry. That's going to be a phenomenal show to end the year for United Wrestling. But let's go from United Wrestling to UBW and UBW Square One. And I know a topic and a group that you're very passionate about, Tommy. You've got a long history with UBW. And I believe that UBW and Square One were also, like I say, responsible for your training and your early career, if I'm not mistaken. I think we covered that in your interview over 2 years ago. But UBW and Square One, they've got this fantastic history of just producing and creating incredible talent year after year. There always seems to be this next batch, this next crop of fantastic talent and characters that are coming out of the UBW and the Square One Academy. And now you're partly responsible for that, because I know that you do training there. You're one of the coaches there. I think you were one of the coaches even when we spoke a couple of years ago. But you must be continually impressed by the talent that UBW and the Square One Academy are continually pumping out and producing, not just for UBW shows, but nationwide and in some cases worldwide.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no, there's a lot of good eggs there, and I think it's a really good. It's similar to like I would say the new waves and things, right? Like it's not I would say the level of the what's the term? The accolades of some of the trainers there, but like the camaraderie of the school is really tight. Everyone wants to see everyone else succeed, and everyone wants to push everyone, and everyone wants everyone to be better, so pushes the other person to be better by being better themselves. And yeah, no, there's just been a load of names from when I was kind of started that have branched out, like Crowley Memes, Truman Roswell. That was kind of sort of our, I guess, people that were around that time. And now you've got like your Chris Aries, your Artemis, your Arthur Scarrows, your Tony Sins, your Harrison Leons, like all those people that are now heading out and doing really cool things. And yeah, it's just really cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I spoke to Memes a few weeks ago, we mentioned Bobby Tyler, Stevie Turner, who is doing great things in WWE and NXT. And she was a product of UBW as well, I understand.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. No, Stevie, I think she was one of the OGs, Stevie Turner, one of the originals.
Yeah, and not forgetting their current champion, UBW champion, Ricky Calvé, of course. But tell us a bit about what role you play in the coaching team.
So I take the beginners class. So when new people come to learn wrestling, I like to teach them the basics. It's something that I pride myself on, that I think I've got good fundamentals, and I'm a teacher by trade. So I'm very good at breaking down and explaining the methods behind the madness, so to speak, of wrestling, which is good. And because I'm a teacher, I find it really good to like communicate with people with, I don't know, maybe who learn differently to other people. Some are more like kinesthetic learners, some are a bit more like visual, and you just got to kind of suss those learners out and see what works for some people. And it's very interesting to kind of see how different people learn, and how different people sometimes take things, learn things faster than others, and then those opposites will learn a different thing faster than the ones back, and you have to compromise and work with each other, and then everyone gets better at the same time because they're helping the other person fix their flaws. So it's really interesting, and it's very rewarding as well.
Yeah, and I know that Square One Training Academy, you've had guest coaches doing seminars, such as Nick Aldis, which is about a year ago, and earlier this year, Michael Oku, of course, a former guest of the show. And I think there you are, just on the far right-hand side of the screen, and some familiar faces in that picture. But I understand that the UBW Square One Training Academy is in the process of moving, and will be moving before the end of the month. Quite exciting developments for UBW and for Square One. Tell us a little bit about that, where they're moving to, and what the new facilities are going to promise to the trainees there and anybody that might be a member.
Yeah, so we've already got a very decent facility, but we have been in it for a few years now. So we're moving. We're based in Hitchin, and we're still going to be based in Hitchin. But we're just moving about, I think it's like maybe 2 minutes up the road. It's not far from where the original place is, but we've got more space. We share it with a gym and a strongman area. So if people are into that as well, but we're also adding things like yoga, Pilates in that place, depending on how you want to train. We're upgrading to a bigger ring. We're upgrading to a ring area as well with TV places around for match study. We're going to be able to host in-house shows as well. It's exciting because a lot of the stuff, even though the area we've got now is really good, space is a little bit tight to run strongman gym and wrestling together. And the ring is kind of tucked into like kind of a gap in the wall sort of thing. Yeah. So it's fine, absolutely fine to train in, but it's not very good for like going to the outside on 3 of the sides because you're right next to walls. Whereas this is a little bit better. You've got a completely open space. For the fact we'll be able to run in-house shows will be really, really cool. It's good for new people, beginners to kind of have that experience of doing a show, but being in the security of, you know, people that they know who aren't going to judge them, who are just going to watch them and try and help them, but still be in like a show environment before they go out there and try and go to shows. It's really exciting, really exciting.
Absolutely. And I think that change of venue, that change of premises, it's not too far away. I think before the end of the month.
I think, movements are, I think there's a lot of stuff being moved in at about the 23rd or 24th. And I think they're looking to open on the 30th, but yeah, we'll see. I see if all of it's open by then. I think it'll be open, but I don't think everything will be finished by the 30th. But you never know. Might be. Yeah, I'm just the training side. The actual gym side, I have no idea.
keep checking out Square One's socials, and I'm sure you get full updates. And if you are interested in becoming a pro wrestler, or if you are a wrestler and want a different training school, academy to train with, then get in touch with the guys. And I'm sure they'll be happy to listen to your inquiries and take you in and see what you can learn with the Square One Training Academy. But you've got a match coming up soon with Square One UBW against a certain Lincoln Spectre. Now, an individual, a young man that I'm not too familiar with, but this is happening. What's the date there, Tommy? I can't quite make out.
So it's this Saturday. It's November
Saturday, of course, November the 9th.
8th, sorry. 8th. Yeah, 9th, sorry, 9th. Yeah. I'm terrible with dates. Yeah, November 9th, this Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. And is he a product of Square One? Because he looks quite new to the scene, a name I'm not too familiar with. What do you know about your opponent there?
No, he's not a Square One guy. He's from Play Fight in London. He's one of the Play Fight guys. But we have a good sort of relationship with Play Fight, and a lot of their students seem to be on our Square One and UBW shows, which is good because it allows them to go out and do a show that's in front of people. And I think they're doing in-house shows as well. But this gives them like a booking as well, which is good. And yeah, it's really cool to see a lot of these guys come through. Like there's, again, people that are Play Fight trained that are sort of making their way down to us. So people like Bart O'Connor, Tig, we got Progressive Overload, Samuel St. Daniels, Ollie Fern. A load of people are seen coming from that Play Fight area to come and work for UBW and Square One, all so everyone can come up together and learn from each other, which is really cool.
Absolutely. The final set of wrestling groups that I want to talk to you about is Sacrifice Pro and dare I say it, Wet Cake Pro. Because you've been part of Sacrifice Pro since 2019, and I'm sure we spoke about Sacrifice when you were first on the show. And of course, Wet Cake, you've been part of all 3 of their shows. But you're very much kind of part of the fabric of Sacrifice Pro, and you've been there for, I'd say, a very long time, the last 5 or 6 years, and they're still very, very important in your journey as well, aren't they? Out of the Eagles Bar, Bedford Town Football Ground, but Sacrifice Pro in particular does just great things for great causes. Always puts on a fantastic show. Like I say, brings in experienced and newer talent that they're trying to establish or give an opportunity, a platform to. But Sacrifice Pro still doing some wonderful things, and you're still very much part of it, aren't you?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love Sacrifice. I will always make time for Sacrifice. Yeah, I just think the fact that they give to various charities all the time is just a really nice thing to do. And like you said, they have a great mix of talent to bring people up together, and there's a lot of freedom there to kind of. It's like one of those places where I go, but like, okay, here's where I'm going to try all the ideas that I've had in my head. And it's a really nice crowd. The venue's really cool. The locker room's excellent. And it's a very good place to kind of practice what you preach and weave what you sow and everything. and just some really cool stories and moments that I've been able to tell at Sacrifice.
And a fun night out for the fans. And I know that when the wrestlers have finished their match, they kind of sit with the fans and cheer the rest of the matches on. But the atmosphere inside the Eagles bar is always fantastic. And it's, they usually run shows, I think, either on a Friday night or a Saturday night. But the atmosphere is always fantastic, and some great action from names you might not be too familiar with, but after watching the Sacrifice Pro show, you soon will be. But get yourself down there if you haven't already. Let me ask you, as we start to wind down this interview with the absolute Maverick, Tommy Kyle, but we spoke earlier about your wrestling style, your journey as a performer, your growth as a performer as well, Tommy. But who do you draw inspiration from, especially as your in-ring style continues to evolve or maybe mature, and maybe more so since the injury? But who do you draw inspiration from? And I mentioned earlier that you're quite a hybrid wrestler. You've definitely got your mat game, your high flying, your fast paced, your unique offense. But who are the certain individuals or wrestlers out there that you look up to or draw a bit of inspiration from?
I mean, I think it's for anyone who knows me, it's fairly obvious that I think my favorite wrestlers are Daniel Bryan and Nigel McGuinness. So, or Bryan Danielson even. I always take a lot of inspiration from their Ring of Honor matches, their thousands that they had, a lot. But yeah, I'm a huge Nigel McGuinness fan. Just a guy who went over to America as a Brit and brought the British style over there, and just always had such innovative stuff that wasn't like a load of flips or a load of like high risk stuff, but it was all very technical but very unique, and I always draw from him, which is why the Mills match was so cool, because I know that Nigel's a huge influence to him. So to have that match as a kind of like a love letter to Nigel McGuinness was very, very, very cool. But yeah, I would say those two mainly. But like, I try and draw from just everything that I see now. Like I know what I can do physically and like athletically, and so there's some stuff that I'd be like, I'm not even going to bother trying that. Whereas before, I would maybe waste a bit of time being like, I reckon I can do that, and now it's just like, nope, that's not for me. But I just try and find stuff that either is unique. So sometimes that's like not always pulling from wrestling. That might be for something that I've seen in like a film or like a video game or something, or stuff that's so old or from such a obscure place that no one has really seen it either for a long time or no one really has heard of it. And then I try and implement it a little bit into my style.
Yeah, I know that you were at Wembley, weren't you, for All In this year? So
yes.
You would have seen Nigel McGuinness's return, and you would have seen the main event with Bryan Danielson becoming AEW World Champion. So that must have been a pretty cool moment for you as a fan, seeing two big inspirational figures like that, one returning and one kind of having the match of his life and winning the championship. That must have been pretty special for you.
Oh, mate, I cried when Nigel came out. I just did not expect it.
It was totally unexpected.
Yeah, so I said to people I was with, I was like, if he hits the lariat, I'm gonna lose it, and he hit it, and I think I stopped watching the match after. I couldn't continue watching it. I was state, but yeah, that was very, very cool, very, very cool.
Brilliant. And final question from me, and focusing more on since we last spoke the last couple of years, or maybe even more recently since you came back from injury. But what's been some of your proudest moments or highlights in the last couple of years, considering everything that's gone
on? I would say definitely the return at Riot. The reception coming back to that was very, very cool. Yeah, that was very, very cool. I would say definitely seeing the progression of some of my peers as well, seeing them get to places and knowing that I had a hand in that is very rewarding and very nice as well. And just wrestling allowing me to do stuff that I don't think I would have done otherwise if it wasn't for wrestling. That's not always like traveling to places, but it's sometimes just like an experience or a conversation with someone that like, because that happened at a wrestling show. I don't know if that would have come up or anything like that. I thank it for getting me in really good shape as well. I feel like the injury and just trying to get better, and because of wrestling, has got me into better shape.
Yeah.
Even though all wrestlers have crippling body dysmorphia, but I do think there has been some improvement, and for me to see some improvement on myself is a big deal. And yeah, I would say that. I think winning the Ignite title and being able to represent that promotion, yeah, super cool. Yeah, I'm just enjoying the journey, mate. Loads I'm happy with, and I'm just proud to be able to do it.
Yeah, lots to be proud of, many highlights and lots to be happy with. And before we ask you for your socials, just a quick reminder that my next interview will be with these guys here. Jack Knudsen, Benjamin Harland. Act 2 will be rejoining me after more than a couple of years since they were last on Wrestling with Johners, Friday the 29th of November. 8 p.m. And they'll both be joining me. Act 2 will be on Wrestling with Johners live Friday the 29th of November. Tommy, back to you. But it's been fantastic having you on the second time over. And who knows, in a couple of years' time, we might be able to have you back on for a third stint, a third crack, a third chat with Johners. But where can we reach out, say hi, learn more about Tommy Kyle? What socials can we reach out to you on? And yeah, learn more about the Absolute Maverick, my friend. And they are scrolling along the bottom, but the floor is yours.
I'm not going to lie, it's probably better for me to scroll because I never remember my own socials. Instagram is tkyle01 and X or Twitter is TommyKyle95. And merch is Top Gun Tommy at bigcartel.com.
I see you do have a Big Cartel. I know there's various prints on there, including, and I think this is probably your most recent design, your most up-to-date design, which is on there. A pretty cool design there. So besides Big Cartel, can they buy that at the shows as well, Tommy?
Yep, they can. I'm on fairly low stock at the moment. I've only got, I think, maybe like a couple sizes. I need to resize, but yes, I will have them at shows, and then if I don't have your size, I will put an order in.
There we go. And I also want to thank you for being a big supporter of the show and the podcast the last couple of years. There you are, sporting the Wrestling with Johners vest. Hit me up, DM me if you want to look like as good as Tommy Kyle in a gym vest there. Absolutely fantastic. And I know from the bottom of my heart, I just want to thank you. You have been a big supporter of the show, and like I say, we talk about the podcast when we meet. And like I say, thank you so much for all of your support over the years. And like I say, I'm a big fan and appreciative of everything you do in the ring. And thank you for your support back, my friend.
No, mate, you give us a platform, you let us promo and stuff. Like, honestly, thanks goes to you, man. No, you do it. You do a lot for wrestling. So. Yeah, no, thank you, man. Always appreciated.
The Absolute Maverick, Tommy Kyle, on the 6th anniversary show of Wrestling with Johners, episode 369. You've been an awesome guest. We'll definitely get you back on in a couple of years' time. Many more highlights to come. But can't wait to see what the future holds for the Absolute Maverick. But Tommy Kyle, for now, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. And we'll see you at the shows, my friend.
Thank you, Jonas.
Take care.